Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your nation, know yourself. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about astrology today. But really, this video is almost a bit of almost like a stream of consciousness video in a sense. We are halfway through the year, and what a year it has been. And when I was thinking up of a title for this video, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, what shall I call it? And one of the things that came to my mind, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but I think I'm just going to have to call the video this in the description as well. And today's video is going to be called Kala Sarpa Cray Cray. So what does that mean? You would have seen before I discussed in my videos about the fact that the world is under the influence of something called the Kala Sarpa Yoga. So I'm going to reference a diagram that I've used before. This is one here. I don't want to affect the color balance too much, but if I hold this about here, you'll see these two big things here. These are the nodes of the moon, yeah? These are the planets. And basically, when the planets are all one side of the nodes of the moon, it's called a Kala Sarpa Yoga or a time serpent yoga. And as that would imply, that's not so good. What it does is, it just means that the world basically goes a little bit crazy. Because the nodes of the moon are very unpredictable. They're very unstable or destabilizing forces. They're very powerful. They don't have physical points. They are coordinates. They are the nodes of the moon. And what does that mean? The moon nodes, they cause eclipses. And what they do is they eclipse the sun and the moon, and that affects our personal psychology, like where the sun and moon falls in our charts or where the eclipse falls, but it also affects the psychology of the world. And at the moment, if we look here, the nodes are slowly moving backwards. They always go against the planets. So the planets always go this way, and the nodes always go backwards. And when they are in Gemini, Ardra, which is the teardrop, and when they are in Mula, which is in Sagittarius, basically huge events happen around the world. Now, the closest time that they were last in this position was in September the 11th, which has been said by many astrologers. Almost every astrologer has talked about this. Rahu is no longer in Ardra. He's moving backwards, and he's now in the part of Gemini, which is called Mrigashira. It's a bit more gentle, but it's still a little bit wacky, because this section, this pada belongs to Scorpio. So, you know, there's still a bit dodginess going on, but it's a bit better. South node of the moon, Ketu, is still in Mula, and Mula is about it. The symbol for it is roots. So it's tearing things up from the roots and planting new seeds. And it's kind of like the ugly truth, yeah? So we're still in this realm of ugly truth. However, the sun, as I've stated in videos before, is soon going to break this Kala Sarpa Yoga. And if I remember correctly, let me just check my notes. The sun will break that on the 16th of July 2020 at 6:46 a.m. UK time. So we don't actually have that long to go until that actually happens. So yeah, thank goodness for that. So only a few more days to go. Mercury is also still retrograde, but goes direct on the 12th of July. So that will improve things. But why have I called this Kala Sarpa Cray Cray? Because just look what's happened in the last 6 months. Oh my goodness, I don't know about you. But on a certain level, I'm exhausted. And I think a lot of people are exhausted because so much has happened. We've had the coronavirus. I say had, I shouldn't even say that really. The coronavirus is ongoing. As we know, this has been devastating for the whole world. It's affected everywhere, and it's still an ongoing kind of crisis. In Europe, we're sort of getting a lid on it. Even here in the UK in Blighty, we're kind of doing a little bit better. But when we look at America, and when we look at South America as well, like Brazil, Mexico, Ecuador, blah blah, we hear just awful stuff. But particularly in America as well, the numbers are soaring up, and you would think with everything that's going on, there would at least be some kind of minimum procedures kind of put in place to kind of basically just try and protect Americans from this disease. So look, I don't want to be too critical. Every nation has its own fate and destiny. Everyone has their own opinions, and every country has its own leadership style. We know about Mr. Trumpy, and we know what his thoughts are in terms of coronavirus, and then we know the actual facts of what's actually happening. And there is quite a distance between those two realities. Let's put it that way. But I do want to talk a bit about America because it's important to discuss, because America does have a unique chart. Now look, this is the chart of America here that I've drawn up. Now you'll notice that there's quite a few errors and mistakes on here, because I like to kind of do the physical drawing. I could easily just put in some slides of of America's chart, but that's not the point. I like to kind of get real with things. And it was very interesting because when I was drawing up America's chart, I kept making mistakes. I don't normally make mistakes when I draw up a chart. I'm very, very careful, but there were several. And it's almost like when you tune in with a nation, it's like you kind of get a bit of a vibe comes through you of what's going through that nation at that time. And I just kept jarring, and I just kept making mistakes. And I find that very interesting. Now, every nation has dealt with things in their different way, but I think we can say what is very clear. Unfortunately, I'm sure most Americans can probably admit this now. There have been really quite a lot of mistakes. We've not been perfect in Blighty either. We've seen a lot of what's gone down here, which has not, which has not been so great. But then we've had the furlough scheme, and we've had various different things where we have responded actually very well. But this is very interesting. But what I should say is this: America has this fate where it's almost like it's the lightning rod for the big fate and destiny of planet Earth. Yeah. So Americans have been criticized quite often for feeling like they are the center of things, but on a certain astrological level they are, for good or for bad. Now, what I want to say is here, if we look here, this is America's chart. So this was the chart, this was from the placements, I think it was back in March actually, just when, was it March? No, ignore that. This is actually the USA constitutional chart. Forgive me, I do so many charts. Anyway, so if we look here, what's going on? So here we are, this is the first house. So I use the constitutional chart of the 4th of July, 1776 at 6:30 p.m. Philadelphia. Yeah, that's one that's actually been rectified by another astrologer whose name sadly escapes me, but this one really does work. And I'm using the sidereal placements on this one. So we see here, this would give the USA, it gives the USA a Sagittarius ascendant. This is important because that decides the rulership of the houses. So house number 1 is ruled by Jupiter, 2 and 3 ruled by Saturn, house number 4 Pisces, 5 house number 1 and number 4 Pisces, Jupiter. Houses 5 and 12 Mars, Aries and Scorpio. Houses 11 and 6 are ruled by Venus, Taurus and Libra. Houses 10 and 7 are ruled by Mercury via Gemini and Virgo, which is very important. And then House number 9 is ruled by the sun, Leo, and house number 8 is ruled by the moon. Now, why is this important? The reason why this is important is because in terms of Cray Cray, like what I've been talking about, America has a chart that's probably the most Cray Cray out of any chart in the world. And I mean that seriously. You know, you might be chuckling, or some people might be like, that's not very flattering, but it's true. And the reason why is this: the 8th house, which you can see here, this is the most dynamic house. This is the house in life that basically gives the most trouble. Yeah, this is the I call it the washing machine, because everything goes down. You've got all your taboos there. So you've got your taboos, you've got your sex, you've got your scandal, you've got your death, you've got your corruption, you've got your assassinations, all those kind of dodgy things. But also the 8th house also has your kundalini, it has your meditation, it has your spirituality, it has got your astrology, it does your tarot, it does all the various different ologies, and it's where you really can find some nitty-gritty, some real truth. So although the 8th house is a difficult house, the most difficult house, it does have a lot to offer as well. But the issue here is, if you look at the the US's chart, Mercury, planet Mercury, is retrograde, and we know Mercury retrograde is already difficult. It's also with Rahu, which is really quite a cray-cray part of the zodiac. Rahu is obsession, insatiable drive, innovation, but also it's also illusion, mystery, smoke, as the nodes are often described. So Rahu is amazing, but it's a very tricky customer, and one has to approach Rahu with caution. Whereas, say, like Ketu is the south node of the moon, it's land we've already mastered. It's the symbol of it is the flag in astrology, and it's like the castle, and it's like your past life, what you've already conquered. Rahu is the jungle, where the wild animals are, you know, where crazy stuff can happen. And as we have seen with the nodes of the moon being in Gemini and in Sagittarius, the whole world is in a tailspin. So this Kala Sarpa Yoga is affecting America probably the most. And guess what? They've got the highest numbers. Now, I've said before, Gemini is Mercury rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. But I'm calling the big C, COVID, is a Gemini disease. Why? Because it's a social disease. It's spread by communication, air droplets, and it affects the lungs and the arms. And these are all the dominions of planet Mercury via Gemini, which is socializing, moving around, communication. And then Virgo is also the sign of health, health and well-being. So when you have that planet that basically covers travel and socializing and health, and you know, one can see the symbolism of the coronavirus, and this really does work out. So the countries that have had a stronger Mercury have had better outcomes. So Germany, for example, has a very good Mercury, and you know, so does South Korea, and you know, those places where they've done well, they've got a good Mercury. Now, this Mercury for America is really not so hot. It's in a tricky house, and it's also in a tricky sign for Mercury because it's in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is a wonderful sign, but Mercury doesn't really like being there. He doesn't like being in the water signs too much. Why? Because they're a bit too emotional and they're not very rational for him. He likes to be cool, calm, and collected. So he likes to be in air signs or earth signs. When he's in a fire sign, he overheats. As in the UK's chart, he's in Sagittarius. And when he's in a water sign, he kind of gets a bit, it's like he kind of drowns a little bit. He becomes too emotional, and it's just like he just can't deal. Now, the trouble is, for America, is that planet Mercury is the dispositor for the whole chart. What does that mean? It means all of the planets basically come up to his desk and they report to him. Ultimately, a dispositor looks after the soul of another planet. So say, for example, if you have planet Saturn is in the sign of Libra. Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra, but it means the dispositor for Saturn is Venus, yeah? And let's say Venus is debilitated in Virgo, yeah? And what that means is, although that Saturn is exalted, the dispositor for Saturn, the sole expression of that planet, is in a difficult position. So that will affect that status of that planet. So Mercury is actually in a difficult house, and it's in a difficult sign for Mercury, and it's also with Rahu, which is, you know, basically Rahu is like, say like there's a fight happening in the street, yeah? Or something's going down, something juicy's going down. Rahu will either be there filming it and will be throwing in insults to kind of hype it up. Or if there's a little fire somewhere, which could be controlled with maybe a fire hydrant or stuff like that, Rahu comes along with a petrol can and pours petrol on there, and it goes kaboom. So he exaggerates things. Both of the nodes exaggerate, but Rahu in particular blows stuff up. So this Mercury is a bit sketch, and in effect affects the whole of the US chart. Now, because of America's karmic placement, in the sense of they are there as a nation to set an example, yeah, for good or for bad. Remember, they've got a Sagittarius ascendant, and Sagittarius is about what? It's about the higher principle. It's about righteousness. It's about freedom. It's about truth. It's about searching out there and, you know, wanting to do the best, and wanting the best for everyone and for the right reasons. Sound familiar? But there's also another side. There's a shadow side to every sign and every planet, and it can be kind of fundamentalism, or it can be a bit Bible bash, dare I say, you know, stuff like that. It can be very much might is right, you know, I'm right and you're wrong. Who are you to tell me, and no one is going to impact on my freedom, yeah? Because I'm supposed to be free. Isn't this interesting? So when we look at the face masks, which has now been basically proven to work for quite some time now, no one wants to wear them. People are fighting over this because, you know, they want their freedom. And of course, if we think of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it's all about freedom, yeah? Freedom, 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 freedom. But there's a shadow to that. And what that means is that sometimes when that Jupiter, when we get too Sagittarian about things, let's just say that, not to personalize it too much, sometimes we don't listen, yeah? We don't listen to good advice because we believe that we know the truth, we have the answers, I'm right, you're wrong. And this has consequences, no? And we only have to look at the TV to see that this is having big consequences now for America, because everyone else's numbers say, like, except maybe for Brazil and maybe some other places in South America, but broadly in the world, the numbers are going down, yeah? And, you know, we can start to live life, even in Blighty, you know, shops starting to open, you know, we can go to the gyms next week, you know. Some people just absolutely licked it, hit the ball out of the park. New Zealand just basically just cakewalked. You know, they had a little bit of resurgence, but that was because of 2 Brits that went there. So, oops, sorry, New Zealand, for that one. But in America, without doubt, the numbers are zooming up and the deaths are starting to go up as well. And this is why I'm calling this Kala Sarpa Cray Cray, because what happens with America, whether we like it or not, tends to affect perceptions in general in the wider world, because they have this karmic responsibility to hold themselves up as an example of either what to do, or, as I've been saying in blogs, what not to do. And this is playing out, and there's a lot of factors going on. We are in extraordinary times. You would have heard this 1,000 times, either on the TV or on YouTube or wherever you're kind of getting your information. But It's because it's true. These kind of alignments that we have only happen once every few hundred years, and I'm talking like about 700 years. You know, we had stuff similar to this. I mean, there was a time in, you know, in the 1500s when we went when there was the Protestant or the Catholic Reformation, because of the creation of the Protestant faith. But you can even go back to times in like the 1400s and stuff with Knights Templar, and you can actually, if you go back even further, we can actually look at the fall of Rome. So yeah, so we're in those kind of times, and that's why everything feels so cray cray, because the planets are tugging this way and that way, and there's all sorts. I would say this is a little brief respite, but there's going to be more, because in September, Mars, planet of war and conflict, is basically going to be going retrograde in his own sign of Aries. And at the moment, he's in Pisces. So if you just imagine for a minute here, the planets are going like that. So this was back in March, yeah? Back in March. Mars has now moved and is now up over here. So it means he's in the halfway point between Rahu and Ketu, yeah? In Western astrology, a position like that, when a planet is halfway between Rahu and Ketu, is called the bends. Want to know what the bends is? It's when you're underwater, for those that may not be familiar, and you're breathing with your oxygen mask and you're underwater and you come up too quickly. And basically what happens is you develop bubbles in your blood, and you can die from it. It just turns you absolutely bonkers. So Mars, planet of war, is in a bit of a bonkers position right now, halfway between the nodes. But then if you see here, this little glyph here, that is planet Uranus, yeah? Planet of shocks and surprises, revolution, you know, stuff just going off the hook. I call that the planet of Brexit, actually, because it was the Brexit planet for the UK. But Uranus is known for causing earthquakes, and so is Neptune, yeah? And someone who's done a lot of work on this is a very good astrologer called Joni Patry. She's been in the business for ages, 40 years, you know, she knows what she's talking about. And in her research, she's actually shown that there is a strong connection between Uranus and Neptune for causing earthquakes. So you can imagine sudden shocks and surprises, this, that, and the other. Now, Uranus is also at the halfway point between the nodes of the moon, in terms of sign placement, and essentially in terms of the US constitutional charts. So that's a bit of a problem. So expect some rumbling and a shaking sometime soon. But also as well, planet Uranus reflects society, sudden shocks and surprises. It's in the sign of Aries. The sign of Aries is about standing up and fighting for a cause, yeah? And planet Uranus is sudden shocks and surprises, and it's the planet of rebellion. What have we been seeing around the world for the last 6 months or so, if not more? Think of Hong Kong, think of the rebellion. Now, planet Uranus stays in the sign for about 7 years, so we've got quite a bit of something to keep carrying on going for in terms of planet Uranus. So these are the times. So it's going to be volatile. There is a tremendous amount of change. I don't know about you guys. Please leave some comments in the sections below. But my goodness, people have been through the ringer. We've had people passing, obviously, because of coronavirus, and because of other reasons. People have been having diagnoses of things, sudden health crises. We see people have been made redundant or losing their jobs, or writing books for the first time, wanting to blog for the first time. I started my channel during lockdown, this channel here, people going for counseling or seeking advice. So much churn, so much emotions. If you felt that way, or you've got family members or friends who've just been going through the ringer, it seems, put that in the comments below, and we can discuss that, and maybe I can do some videos on more specific issues for people. Normally I would wear the wings, but today, I just can't be asked. It's almost like I feel like I've got a bit of spiritual fatigue because so much has been happening. On one level, it's been good, and I'm so grateful for all of my clients, and thank you so much. And also as well, if anyone would like a booking with me, I don't just do the nations, I also do personal consultations as well. So I can look at things like money, love, romance, career, destiny, why you're here, and what that's all for. I was doing a consultation today actually, and I could see this was quite a young guy. I won't say his name or mention too many details about his chart, but I could see that he was an author and that he has some fantastic ideas, and it was a pleasure to give him guidance and advice of what things were likely to pan out in his future, and how he could navigate the current difficulties that he was experiencing now, particularly when I looked at his Mahadasha sequence and other kind of stuff. So if anyone would like a consultation with me, then feel free to go to my website. It will be in the description, and I'll put a little bit of text, but it's called thearchetypalblueprint.com. And I'm also on Instagram, and I'm also on Twitter with the handle @Hogarth Brown. If you'd like to know more, what I want to say is this, to kind of wrap this thing up. It's cray cray, yes. Why? Basically because of the planets, because of our emotions, just because of the world. Basically, we're going through this rapid upgrade. Yeah, you might hear people talking about 3D reality and 5D reality. Basically, the consciousness of us and the earth is all rising up. But because of that, old things have to go, old things have to die, so new things can be born. And our friend planet Pluto, and even though he's technically planetoid, I always refer to him as a planet. He might be small, he's smaller than our moon, but my goodness, does this planet pack a punch. And we've just basically been dragged through the gates of hell, basically. That's what it is. That's what he represents in the Greek Roman mythology. He's known as Hades, the god of the underworld. And all of us in the collective are kind of doing Persephone's journey. She was stolen by Hades, and she had to go through the underworld to eventually come out the other side. She had to stay there, but eventually her mother, who was the goddess of the earth, negotiated so Persephone could spend half the year above ground, spring and summer, and then half the year below in Hades, autumn and winter. So that's how the seasons were described, but that's what we're going through right now. Collectively, the world is kind of going through a bit of the dark night of the soul, where some people are finding this very spiritually liberating, and they're being able to advance themselves in their spiritual practice. But a lot of people are having a rotter, and there's just been a lot thrown up at us right now. We have to hold on to the rafters. We've got to expand ourselves. We've got to kind of try and move in the right direction, try and keep our faith and optimism at this time. But I know it is tricky, and that's why this video is called Kala Sarpa Cray Cray. So thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the video, and when you subscribe, click the bell button so that you whenever I release a new video, you can see it and be notified about it. I also, like, on my website, I also have a newsletter, and also as well on my blog. I've got a blog which is called The Karma Bus Has Come for America, and it is I wrote it in March, and a lot of that has come true. So if you are American, this is not personal to you, but this is just this is archetypal, this kind of stuff that's going on, and America is very much a part of that narrative. But of course there is China as well. The last solar eclipse, which was one of my last videos, on the 21st of June, the eclipse shadow also went through India and China. And one of the things I spoke about there was that perceptions will be changing for China, and we see they are. The world is starting to respond to China very differently, and this could actually have quite serious kind of political and maybe even possible financial consequences. Also as well, eclipses tend to bring things like weather events, earth stuff, shaking, you know, stuff like that. So we might see, you know, a lot of dodgy weather. I know there were some massive floods in Japan recently, earth tremors. So, you know, there's a lot more to happen. However, you got to stay positive, stay with the light, hold the light, bear witness to what's going on in the world. But at the end of the day, you've got to look after yourself and your loved ones, your family and friends. Check in with each other, let people know you love them and that you're thinking about them, and try and keep each other's back, and we will get through it. By next year, things hopefully would have calmed down a little bit more. September, we're going to see the nodes of the moon move out of this dangerous position where Rahu is going to be in Taurus and Ketu is going to be in Scorpio, but Mars will be retrograde in Pisces and dipping in and out of Aries. So get yourself ready for a bit more, but you know, one day at a time, folks. Thanks so much, and I thank you to my new subscribers as well. And yeah, let's grow this channel together. I hope you you've been liking my stuff. So good luck with everything. I'll do a new video soon. I might actually start doing my What Makes series, which is kind of like what makes a great singer, what makes a great dancer, what makes a great rapper, what makes a great politician. Because there's a lot of doom and gloom videos out there already, and I don't need to add to that anymore, although that is very real and I will be doing updates. But I think my next video should be about that, so people can see what gives a person their talents. Right, I'm going to stop there. So thanks so much for watching. This is Hoagie Master here at Hogarth Astrology, Global Astrology. Know your nation, know yourself, and namaste.